Usually, when kids go away to school after graduating high school, they want nothing to do with their hometown. They want to go out and see the world. Well, that wasn't the case for me. I always prided myself as really enjoying the area I grew up in. So much so that after college, my girlfriend and I moved back to the neighborhood where I grew up. Though the area changed quite a bit, it was still home to me. It seemed like more and more people moved into the small, quiet town, which not only increased the overall size, but the traffic as well. We found a small house for rent on the outskirts of town, and quickly snatched it up before anyone else could get to it. At first, it seemed like a steal. The price was surprisingly cheap, and everything in and around the house seemed intact and in good working condition. But once we moved in, strange things started to happen. My girlfriend and I worked similar shifts, early mornings to be exact. This usually meant getting to bed relatively early at night. The first few nights in the new house was pretty typical, especially being alerted by every strange new noise we heard. But we kept telling ourselves that it was just something to get used to. So, I tried not to pay any attention to the consistent and almost rhythmic tapping coming from the living room while we were trying to sleep. At first, I told myself that it was probably the house just settling. But after a while, it wasn't a plausible explanation. After about a week of listening to the odd noise, I decided to get up one night to check it out. The house at night was extremely dark. I couldn't help but grab a flashlight to avoid injuring myself. The tapping seemed to become louder as I made my way down the hall and peered into the bare living room. The sound quickly stopped as I stepped into the room. "It must be mice or something," I said, trying to reassure myself. I scanned the room with the light. The black shadows danced rhythmically across the walls with the illumination. The house had become extremely quiet, almost as if someone was holding their breath to avoid raising awareness of their presence. To my relief, I found nothing. My mind must have been playing tricks on me. I gave up on my search and made my way back to the bedroom. My girlfriend was in such a deep sleep that she didn't even move since I was away. Must be nice, I laughed to myself. I climbed back into bed and made myself comfortable. I felt myself slowly drift off to sleep, barely noticing the soft tapping echoing through the hallway coming from the living room. The next day, I had almost forgotten about the weirdness from the night before. I told my girlfriend about it, but she said that it was probably something that could be easily explained. I gave up and went to work. I figured some time away from the house would ease my wild imagination. When I returned home, I quickly realized that I made it there before my girlfriend. I let myself in the house and jumped on the couch. I wanted to take a nap before making dinner. As I began drifting off, a quick, yet painful sensation shot from the side of my head. I immediately sat upright, grabbing the pain-filled area. That's when I realized it felt like someone pulled a hair right out of my scalp. I sat there for a while, confused. What is going on here? I've never had any kind of dreams like this before. My girlfriend walked in about 10 minutes later, and I told her about what had happened. She immediately started laughing at me. "It must have been one of those dreams where you can feel everything," she said, grinning. "She can laugh all she wants, but the pain is still very real." That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned for hours, and finally, becoming fed up with my inability to relax, I sat up. The tapping noise that had been bothering me since we moved in started up again. Except, this time, it wasn't as rhythmic as before. In fact, it was more of a single pound noise, with a few seconds of silence in between. What was even more troublesome was that it seemed to have started in the living room, but the sound became noticeably louder with each thump. It was almost as if someone, or something, was knocking on the walls as they were walking from the living room into the hallway and coming towards the bedroom. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. All sense of reason was out the window. The pound grew louder as it approached the doorway, and then silence. I stared at the empty doorway, trying to make out any sign of someone standing there. Nothing. I held my breath, anticipating the worst possible outcome, but there was still nothing. The doorway creaked and popped. That's when the loudest bang against the doorframe sounded. I nearly jumped out of my skin as I pulled the blanket over my head. What could this possibly be? I laid there, holding my breath, waiting for another noise or some sign of movement. But I didn't hear anything. I tried to tell myself that I was just imagining things. After what felt like an eternity, I eventually removed the sheet from over my head and rolled over to get comfortable. But not before checking the doorway to the bedroom one last time. Again, nothing. As satisfied as I could be, given the odd happenings, I positioned myself on my side and closed my eyes. I could feel myself falling into sleep so peacefully. Then, I was struck on the back with what felt to be like an over-exaggerated slap. I screamed out in pain. I started to flail violently. "Get away! Get away!" I screamed. That's when I found myself on the floor, being shaken awake by my girlfriend. "It's okay! It's okay!" she was yelling. When I finally came to, I looked up at her, relieved. It was just a dream. I took a few deep breaths as I sat up on the floor. She asked if I was all right, and of course, I told her I was. My back was killing me though, but it was probably from me thrashing around on the floor like a fool. I pulled myself up and climbed into bed. My girlfriend pulled the sheet over her head and fell right to sleep. I laid there on my side with my back to the doorway. As I felt myself drift into a comfortable sleep, I closed my eyes and started to count backwards. That's when I heard a soft voice say,
Don't go to sleep. I'm not